Christian Buckley with CollabTalk.
Hello, this is Michal Sobotkiewicz with KanBo.
And we're talking about a couple different things. We were just talking about graph, but we started to explore and talk about the discovery process and what that means. But there's an aspect of the discovery process that's so important. Coming from the SharePoint background, I mean, both of you and I have worked with SharePoint for many years, and there's a hierarchy in the permissions around SharePoint. And one of the powers of SharePoint for a long time for organizations has been that you can be very intricate with your permission structure in there. If you have intellectual property that only a tiny subset of users should have access to, that you could put these controls in place to be able to go and do that. But what we've learned, and I would say that in the Microsoft ecosystem, a lot of the learnings came after the Yammer acquisition, which has a very flat structure. It was, you have everybody in your network, which is your company, and then you have open and private groups. Really, that was it. That was the extent of the levels. And then you could have, I guess you could have then document level permissions, passwords on your Word or Excel file, for example, and have a third level. But why that was important was because, one, you don't know who is the best expert, who has an opinion that is going to add value to a discussion that's happening there. And so you want to have those flat permissions. But then there's also the discovery process. If I'm, for the system to provide that additional value, it's not just like, if I know the site that I need to go to, that's one thing. If I don't know where I need to be going, but based on the context of my network, of the projects that I'm working on, if the system can come back and say, hey, you may also be interested in, like 9 out of 10 of your team members are a member of this other project that you're not a part of, I want the system to come and make those suggestions to me, because then that helps me find things that I don't know I need to be looking for. And so, maybe you could talk about that, the change from this hierarchy to this flattened permission structure. How has that changed collaboration?
Okay, so to really, it's a very nice example. I didn't know that a lot of mind changing came to the acquisition through Yammer, but now when you said that, it really makes sense to me, because see, the organizations back then, when they were built, they were built on top of the idea of military, where you have the chain of commands, you have a hierarchy. And look, when you look at the file system and the NTFS system, and then in SharePoint, which came out of this, you actually can really see subsites of subsites of subsites, and permissions and nested permissions and stuff like that. It's actually building a hierarchy of who will see which node in the hierarchy. And that was the best people knew, because in the industry age, companies work like that. The hierarchy was actually there to keep information out of your site. That was basically the purpose of it. And of course, the chain of command. Nowadays, in the world of information, where we have actually networks of people with experts, and these experts are experts because they share their knowledge. They are like points of excellence where you can go to and ask for information, and they will give it to you. And these points of experts, or these points of excellence, those experts, are interconnected. Why? Because companies realize that because the world is very much connected, the only way to keep up, you have to connect inside as well in the same manner as an outside, in order to be able to deal with this, what the outside world wants from you. So that's why I think the discovery process that Yammer brought in, like having public and private groups, and that's it, is basically the try to visualize or to build this new paradigm of being connected. So that's also what we realized, that if you have a team of specialists, they need to be able to access all the information the company owns, because you cannot tell which piece of information will be the one that's actually is going to solve this complex problem.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
hiding away this information just because you think that they will not need it is the wrong way. And you could see how many big ships like Nokia made the wrong decisions and didn't have the information go through the hierarchy to the brain of the company, and then a ship like that can just disappear within a year. I mean, imagine someone telling 10 years ago, like Nokia is not going to be there anymore because of 3 or 5 wrong decisions.
Right.
So this is actually, and I know companies in Germany, huge companies, for example, that where the CEOs and the CIOs really signed a paper saying, like, we are now switching to the open book policy, which is we are opening everything and closing only several sections. In 20 years ago, you would say, no, we are closing everything and we are opening some of those. And this is actually what needs to happen. And look at Office. Everyone can create a team. Everyone can create a group, right? And then of course you come into this problem. You need some kind of machinery, some kind of maybe AI that will, narrow down all the stuff that is relevant from you, because now everyone can create.
Right. That's the problem. If you have access to everything, it's. I had an argument with a friend about the fact he was trying to make the case at one point that there was too much content out on the web around like SharePoint, and that too many people were out there writing different things, and it wasn't necessary. Like, this topic has been written about. No one needs to ever write about that topic again. And I said, no, that's not the problem, because one, my perceptions, my experiences are different than yours. We might have the same technical training on a topic, but when we go in and write about that topic, we're going to take 2 different paths on that. A lot of the facts of what the product can and can't do won't change, but the stories that we tell around it, our personal experiences, how we then connect that story, that functionality to other systems, to other experiences, are going to be very different. And so, just like you have people that may have a title in this company today, but they may have had direct relevant experience in another company prior, and you may not otherwise know that if you've cut them out of the conversation by not giving them access to that in the first place. You don't know where innovation is going to come from, where those connections are going to be made. And so by having that flattened organization, and again, we're not talking about access to sensitive data. You still need to be able to go in and protect those kinds of things, but it should be intentional. It should be like, here is 80% of what the company does, and 20% is then in leadership team has finance has that. I don't want everyone in the company with access to all the payroll information, for example. You want to keep that secure. But by opening that up, you then, here's a perfect example. I joined Microsoft in 2006. I was there for 3.5 years. I had come from working with a number of companies in a very well-funded startup that was in the supply chain collaboration space. I had worked extensively with the oil and gas industry. So when I joined Microsoft in 2006 and was working with SharePoint Online, I said, hey, is anybody over talking with these oil and gas companies? I don't see any of them listed as customers, as targets, but they are, in my experience, working with this other very expensive collaboration technology prior to joining, that they would be prime customers, be interested in the SharePoint story. Can we go talk to them? And nobody knew anything about that segment at the time in 2006. So I went and modified my profile inside of SharePoint. This is just a tiny example to show you the power of having this open. As soon as I modified my profile and I put supply chain in my personal description of interests, I went back to my profile and it updated in the servers. I clicked on it. I found 2 other names. in the entire company, 2 other names that had added supply chain with SharePoint in their profiles. And I called them. Turns out it was team members, both working in the oil and gas space. So salespeople interested in SharePoint in that segment. I would not have found, they were over in this project, that they made it open to everybody and had it within their profile. And I found them, had a conversation, ended up doing some demos for them, handing that off to, not that because of me, Microsoft sold SharePoint in these large companies. A lot of other movement happened there. But it's just another example of this discovery process based on the shared interests, the shared projects, and past experiences. It was not part of my job description to go and do that thing, to go and expand that into that other area. But because I did that, I was able to help these other Microsoft personnel make these connections and go and win these deals, and because of it being open. That's just a little example of how having that flattened discussion or access, those permissions, can open up and allow people to connect in ways that when you're going through that hierarchy, you're just not going to hit the right things. You're going to limit yourself right away.
Yeah, that's also my experience, and it is part of the cultural transition because you are actually now eliminating hierarchies, and hierarchies where power, information is power, and now everybody can have access to. So this needs also a change in the minds of people working with that. But this is another story. The systems today, as you can see, the new standard is the open book. So everything gets open by default and closed by exception. And if you as a leader understand this, and so you are then really freeing up people and giving them good shoes to run. Now they have some old boots and some chains, and they cannot really run. You put their brain into a corset.
Right.
Break it up, give them the fuel, and then motivate them, because there's no other way to create ideas, because ideas is not something you can order on Amazon.
Right. But I can see how this would help even from a KanBo perspective. So I have a board. So I'm running a project and I've got a board. It could be this ongoing initiative. And I have, 5-6 people that I have, that have tasks that are assigned there. But by having that open model, and I don't know if this is like your vision for how it impacts like your solution, but think of how that would be if I've got the 5 people working on that. But we may have tasks that are slipping because we can't, where they're doing research, they're trying to find experts around this. And if there's something about what the discussion that's happening within a card, that then it alerts, it comes up in the discovery process of this expert that is not part of the project, that doesn't have access to that. But then through the system and through the graph and this openness is able to come in and see the relevant description about their area of expertise in this card and say, hey, that's something I can help with. And that and join in that conversation, or at least have visibility so that they can then contact the project owner. I mean, whatever that experience looks like. But again, it's making that part of that discovery process in the organization is going to mean that you're going to then tap into the collective knowledge of the rest of your organization that may not be part of that specific project or that set of tasks. And that can be very powerful.
I think you nailed it. I mean, that's basically one of the visions of KanBo. So while people are working and creating information that is already in the context, there are 2 ways. One way is you will definitely go ahead and extract this knowledge and make it somehow searchable. And on the other hand, if you are on search or when you are working, you will probably need somewhere else this information. And KanBo's idea is actually to make a connection between the knowledge that was already put in there because someone asked the question already or was there. So you, when you're working on something, you don't have to go through the whole process. You can actually build on what was already there. And this is the tricky stuff where you can use, Delve, Graph, and also our own engine to actually bring the knowledge just in time as you need it. This knowledge can be experts, can be already questions, answers, documents, whatever. But doing it as a invisible hand that just hands you the knowledge and look, this is the expert that could help you here, or maybe do it by itself, or you ask for it and then it's already there. But that's basically the next level of opening. First, you have to open your minds, then you open your system, and then you give them the right tools that actually make use of those openness and actually then narrow down stuff for you, but not closing down, just narrowing down so you are more productive and you can find.
It's a filtering, you're not closing down.
Filtering, yes.
But that goes back to the story. The argument that I had with this friend was that I said, look, it's not about having too much information. It's about needing to be better about how you search, and that it needs to be a combination of, like in search, we have refiners and kind of go through that, so that there needs to be, intelligence that's doing a lot of that refining based on the context, and to go and be able to find this, and that it then serves up that information in context relevant to the things that you're working on, and says, hey, there's also this other thing that you can go and leverage in this case, or here are 3 experts that you're struggling around this delayed thing. What, maybe you even have this ability to say, I don't know, I'm just thinking that just off the top of my head here, but like an expert finder on that area, almost like an expert button. If you're, hit it and it automatically finds, based on what you're working on, hey, 3 people that are potential resources to help close out this item. I'm just
actually
like a real product suggestion or anything. I'm just saying.
No. I mean, this is actually building an expert database out of actually people working. I mean, if you're working
actual work, right? The difference between, hey, I've got it in my profile that I'm an expert in this, but then you want also the people that don't have it in their profile, but they're actually doing that work. That's powerful.
Much more valuable. This is much more valuable than just writing, I know C++.
Right.
Nice. But if I have a guy who's actually working on 15 cards where C++ is topic,
right,
I would rather rely on that than just on the information in the profile. And this guy is working now, leaving this area, and now for 2 years he's working on Java, but he forgot to update his profile. Getting my point?
Right.
So wherever you transition in the company, on this level, so it's just another topic, or in this level, the system must adapt to this, but you cannot expect people to update their profiles. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think this is when Microsoft talks about building that, the modern workplace, the intelligent workplace. So much of it is about this. I mean, the graph powers a lot of that capability, but it's specifically around that permission structure. And there is a cultural change that's required for you to think differently about, opening up these systems. And yes, you need to be careful. You still think about security and kind of all those kinds of things that governance and security are still relevant. However, the vast majority of things that you do within a company, there really isn't a reason why the majority of employees can't have access to that information, and then leverage that collective intelligence to innovate at a faster rate. So, Michael, I know this is an important topic. We're going to continue to discuss ongoing, but I really appreciate your time today, and we'll connect the next time on the next topic.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.